Imagine going to bed thinking your monthly software bill is $29, and then you wake up to an invoice for $3,000.
Yeah, which is terrifying.
Right. And it's not a glitch. As of this week, that is kind of the new reality of the AI economy.
I mean, the era of the all-you-can-eat buffet is totally over.
Yeah, the kitchen is now charging you by the calorie. So, welcome to today's deep dive. We are pulling from a really fascinating stack of material today, mostly anchored by the June 30th, 2026 edition of the Tech Reader AI Digest.
Right, written by Aaron Rose.
Exactly. But our mission today isn't just to, recap the tech news for you. We want to really look at the hidden plumbing of the AI world right now.
Because that's where the actual shifts are happening.
Yeah. We're going to explore how these frontier models are actually built behind closed doors, the staggering financial cost of using them, and the intense geopolitical chess game over the hardware that runs it all.
It is a critical convergence. We're basically watching artificial intelligence transition from this experimental software phase into, like, a heavy industry utility.
Okay, let's unpack this, starting at the very root of the AI development tree, right? The people building the models that actually build the software.
The talent, yeah.
Because if we look at Google DeepMind, they are currently in the middle of a massive internal reorganization. They formed this AI coding strike team back in April.
Led by Sebastian Borgo.
Right, Sebastian Borgo. But it has some incredibly heavy hitters involved on a daily basis. I mean, Google co-founder Sergey Brin and DeepMind CTO Corey Cavusoglu are working directly on this.
And, the involvement of Brin and Cavusoglu shows this isn't just a standard org chart shuffle.
No, it's an emergency maneuver.
Exactly. And this strike team has a hyper-focused mandate. They're pivoting entirely toward a phase of development called mid-training.
So let's make sure we define that clearly for you, because a lot of people think of AI training in two steps, right? You have the initial pre-training.
You dump the whole internet into the model.
Right, so it learns language. And then you have instruction tuning, where you teach it to be, helpful and polite.
And not swear at the user.
Exactly. But mid-training sits right between those two. It's sort of the difference between teaching someone an immense vocabulary and then sending them to graduate school to learn the complex rules of logic and syntax required to actually write a novel.
That's a great way to look at it.
You're teaching the model the deep structural logic of a specific discipline, and in this case, that's software engineering.
Yeah.
But is this mid-training bottleneck the exact reason why Google is losing top talent to rivals?
Boiling.
Or is it all just about pre-IPO money at Anthropic and OpenAI?
What's fascinating here is that while standard industry recruiting dynamics absolutely play a role, those pre-IPO equity windows create a huge talent arbitrage, the real story is structural.
The actual tech gap.
Right. The true battleground for these frontier labs is no longer general reasoning benchmarks on some public leaderboard. It's coding model competence.
Because Google is bleeding talent, right?
Yeah.
Since February, at least 6 high-level researchers have left DeepMind.
Yeah, Denny Zhu went to Meta, Noam Shazir headed to OpenAI.
And Anthropic poached 3 massive names. Jonas Adler, who literally led Google's AI coding work, Alexander Pritzel.
John Jumper.
I mean, he just won the 2024 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for AlphaFold.
Yeah, that is not a minor departure you just gloss over.
And the core metric driving all this urgency, Google's own CFO admitted that AI currently writes about 50% of their internal code.
Which is high, but
Anthropic claims a figure near 100%.
Exactly. Google recognizes their gap is rooted in how models are built at the mid-training level. Anthropic hitting that near 100% mark shows they've cracked the methodology.
They figured out how to teach a model the complex syntax to automate a whole multi-file workflow, not just autocomplete one line of code.
Right. But that unleashes a completely new problem.
The massive financial wall. Because if Anthropic is generating all its code with AI and Google is trying to catch up, what happens when regular developers try to automate their workflows?
The digital infrastructure just wasn't built for software that thinks in continuous loops.
Right. Which brings us to today, June 30th. It marks the close of GitHub Copilot's first 30-day metered billing cycle.
Which replaced the old flat rate system on June 1st.
And people are furious. So the base prices stayed the same, $10 a month for Pro, $39 for Pro Plus, but they now act as allowances for AI credits, where one credit is essentially 1 cent.
And the mechanics here get very granular.
Yeah, code completions are still unmetered.
Right, just hitting tab to finish a line is fine. But the moment you use chat, agent mode, or the Copilot CLI, You draw down your credits.
Which is why developers are burning their entire monthly allotments in hours. We're talking bills skyrocketing from $29 to $750, or $50 to $3,000 in extreme cases.
It's intense.
It's like an all-you-can-eat buffet that suddenly starts charging you per shrimp once you sit down. I mean, users on Reddit and Hacker News are completely losing it. But didn't the industry see this coming?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, this isn't just a GitHub issue. It's the death of the unlimited AI for a flat-fee era.
Right.
GitHub's own May research explains why. Agentic coding tasks consume roughly 1,000 times more tokens than a standard single-turn query.
1,000 times more, just for one task.
Yes, because when you ask an AI agent to build a feature, it doesn't just write one block of code. It reads your entire code base into its context window.
Oh, right. So that's hundreds of thousands of tokens of input immediately.
Exactly. Then it writes a draft, runs a test, reads the error logs, which is more input rewrites, tests again, and just loops.
It's an active, continuous thought process.
And every single loop requires massive amounts of data processed through physical GPUs.
Yeah.
We are shifting from SaaS subscription economics to metered cloud compute economics. That 1000x multiplier is the inescapable reality of compute cost.
Which makes competitors who haven't switched to metered billing look incredibly attractive.
Oh, absolutely. Things like Claude Code, which maintain predictable flat costs within planned limits, are a lifeline right now for budget-conscious dev teams.
Because you can actually forecast your quarter. But here's where it gets really interesting. Those massive 1000x token burns require unimaginable amounts of computing power.
Physical silicon.
Right. But what do you do when your country is legally restricted from buying the world's best AI hardware?
You have to build it yourself.
Exactly. And Beijing-based Meituan just open-sourced Longcat 2.0.
The specs on this are staggering.
They really are. It's a 1.6 trillion parameter model with a 1 million token context window.
Designed specifically for those massive repository-level tasks we were just talking about.
And its benchmark performance allegedly rivals Google's Gemini 3.1 Pro. But the architecture is key here. It uses a mixture of experts, or MOE architecture.
Right, which means it only activates between 33 and 56 billion parameters per token.
Which saves an immense amount of compute.
Because instead of powering up the entire 1.6 trillion parameter brain for every word, it just routes to the specific expert subnetworks it needs.
Right. But the biggest claim from Meituan is the hardware. They say Longcat 2.0 was entirely pre-trained and inferenced on domestic Chinese hardware.
Specifically, a 50,000-chip cluster of Huawei Atlas 950 SuperPods.
Which is wild because previous models like DeepSeek V4 Pro only used domestic chips for inference, not pre-training.
Because pre-training requires keeping thousands of chips perfectly synchronized for months.
Right, so we know pre-training is incredibly demanding and usually requires restricted NVIDIA GPUs, right?
NVIDIA's networking technology is what makes it possible, yeah.
So if this hardware claim hasn't been independently verified yet and their software ecosystem supposedly lags behind NVIDIA's, are U.S. export controls actually failing, or is Meituan just flexing for the headlines?
This raises an important question about the geopolitics of compute. If the claim holds up to outside benchmarking, it is a massive structural data point.
Meaning the export controls aren't working.
Right. It would prove that U.S. export controls are merely adding friction and cost, rather than acting as a true bottleneck. They force domestic innovation in networking software instead.
Wow. And even if it doesn't fully hold up?
Releasing a 1.6 trillion parameter model as open source under a permissive license instantly accelerates global agentic coding tools. It shifts the balance of power, regardless of the hardware flex.
Because developers everywhere can just use it as a base layer.
Exactly.
So we're seeing friction everywhere. China navigating hardware restrictions, but also massive friction happening in the broader market, from government oversight to staggering hardware price tags.
The industry is maturing and hitting constraints.
Yeah, look at Anthropic. Their Claude Mythos 5 was just partially restored for U.S. critical infrastructure, but Fable 5 remains totally offline for the public.
We are on day 18 of that now.
Right, pending government review frameworks from the NSA and CISA that are due in July and August. So everyone is just defaulting to Claude Opus 4.8.
And OpenAI's GPT 5.6 models, Sol, Terra, Luna, are similarly gated in government previews, with only about 20 partners.
It's like throwing a heavy tarp over a brand new sports car because the regulators haven't figured out how to crash test it yet.
That's entirely what it is.
With models being gated by the government, and on the flip side, ChatGPT hitting 900 million weekly active users and introducing ads or sponsored experiences to all of them.
Yes.
Are we witnessing the end of AI as a Wild West research project and the beginning of it being treated like a heavily taxed public utility?
I think we absolutely are. It's a maturing, aggressively monetized ecosystem now.
Right.
I mean, look at the physical infrastructure costs. NVIDIA is prepping its Vera Rubin VR200 racks for late 2026, pricing them at
$7.8 million per rack.
It's jaw-dropping. And Meta is maintaining a $125 to $145 billion capex.
Which is just astronomical.
When hardware is that expensive, companies are forced to seek massive monetization. That's why you see ads in ChatGPT.
And Gemini 3.5 Pro deferred to July, XAI entering the NASDAQ 100.
They have to pivot toward enterprise and massive revenue streams, all while navigating intense government scrutiny over what these models could do to critical infrastructure.
So we've covered an incredible amount of ground today. We started with a Nobel laureate leaving Google to build better AI coders.
Mid-training arms race.
Exactly. Then we watched everyday developers burn thousands of dollars in hours on those exact agentic AI workflows.
The end of the flat fee.
Right. And we saw how global hardware bottlenecks and government regulations are reshaping the whole industry from Meituan to OpenAI. So what does this all mean?
It's the big question.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We discussed Anthropic internally writing nearly 100% of their code with AI and the massive token costs of these agentic workflows.
Right.
Well, if the code running our critical infrastructure, which the government is currently so worried about that they are gating these frontier models, if that code is eventually written entirely by autonomous agents, and no human engineering team can afford to double-check the work because of those metered token costs we talked about, who is ultimately accountable when a hallucination makes it into the master branch.
That is a terrifying thought.
It really is. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We really respect your time, and we hope you keep questioning the information around you. We'll catch you on the next one.